Right, it is 1:15, so good evening everybody. We first of all do we have the apologies. I have apologies from Ray Matthews, who is feeling poorly. Well, he's ill at the moment, and hopes to rejoin us obviously in January. Tony Fell is on holiday. Have we heard anything from Councillor Audrey? No. Right, so we start on the public participation side. Sorry, just wait for a... Sorry.
Hiring group.
Hiring group, right. That's it, just open. Right, we have, I realise the group here is to talk about traffic calming, speed watching the High Street, but apart from that, bringing you in when we start the meeting, but apart from that, is there anybody who wishes to speak on any other issue before we start? Councillor Hickford. I'll just introduce Councillor Hickford. I think probably most of you know him. He's a county council portfolio holder from Transport Highways.
No, I'm definitely member of the council. I don't know if that's up or down or something.
You flip from flower to flower, that's what you
Thank you. I'd just like to talk about the bridging routes because there's been a lot of concern. So, first of all, I'd like to thank the Park and the District Councils, yourself included, for bringing this issue up and making us aware of the concerns of the residents of Sawston. When this was first considered by the County Council, we were trying to make savings of 650,000 against the 50 million we were trying to save last year. The reality is that we've saved less than 300,000. And we were also being told that we actually had a gold-plated gritting service compared to our neighbouring authorities, and that's actually turned out to be less than truthful. So we were looking at it as a group because obviously your concerns were brought to the Conservative group along with everyone else's. There's lots of residents. I know other political parties have concerns from their residents as well. And there was an amendment to a notice of motion today from the Conservatives that was actually adopted by the whole council and went through unanimously, and I'll just read the crux of it. Is the council therefore asks that the Chief Executive reinstate last year's gritting routes in their entirety using money from the council's general reserves to fund the required amount. So basically we're going to reinstate the gritting routes as they were previously. We will do that as soon as possible. As far as vehicles are concerned, we're pretty confident we can get them by sort of mid-January, but the real problem actually is getting the personnel to drive them, which obviously I think it's been reduced by 20 odd people, so we're having to recruit again on that. So hopefully it will coincide with getting the vehicles back as well, but it will be done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Yes, I mean I think that's a very satisfactory outcome. Are there any questions for Councillor?
Yes, I would like to make a comment, please. Seeing as I was there to present a question and also to ask a question and present a petition that on the late arrival of the amendment to the motion, which was to reinstate some of the gritting, yesterday we saw this amendment arise, which basically took the decision for us, and I suggested that leaving the petition in place was pointless if there was a decision made to reinstate the expenditure. There was a residual question which I have asked, which was about the assessment, the risk assessment that might have been done particularly for New Road, which clearly, if it was left ungritted, would present an increased danger of accidents. So that question is left outstanding.
It's possibly cheaper to grit the road than get a gritting it and get a health and safety assessment done on it.
Sorry, can I bring Councillor Hickford back?
No, it was just to come back on that. The original notice of motion was to ask the Chief Executive to reinstate as many of the gritting routes as possible, but obviously the amendment went to actually say we will reinstate all of them.
Yeah, no, I think everybody was pleased about that.
Oh yes.
I wasn't objecting to the nature of the amendment.
stood.
It went,
we were there.
it went further and beyond the original motion.
I think it's an excellent outcome, and thanks for everyone concerned. Councillor, Beck-Lax and Jane.
I suppose the question is why the county council thought it was a good idea to reduce the amount of gritting so radically in the first place. And I appreciate that that's because you're getting forced to make cuts by central government, which is pursuing its austerity policy in the face of a fair amount of opposition and bad feeling. But
Could I come back? Okay. Well, yes, it's very. I wish I was in government at the moment. It's very easy. As government's making loads of cuts, actually what they're doing is they're just offloading onto local authorities at the moment. So we're having to contend with less money, more people, etc. While governments say, well, we're cutting. I mean, they're not really. Why isn't everyone else? But the council's now in a better position than it was a year ago. This decision was taken November, December, January, because it was my committee that was doing it at the time when I was chair. And it's still dire, but it's not as dire as it was. And with the transformation programme that the county council's going through at the moment, and the money that we've managed to release for that transformation, and what we're seeing because of that is allowing us to actually consider these other things. If we were looking at this, I guess the timing of this was probably a year out, because would we be doing it if we were looking at it this year? I don't have a definitive answer, but it certainly was right in the midst last year, which is why we did what we did.
Yeah, my question was going to be about the implications of the funding cut that you're now not going to get. Is that anything that's likely to impact on this area at all?
Well, it's going to impact on everyone, because the £650,000 saving that we were looking to do, as I say, that didn't come to fruition, or it hasn't. So not only were we looking to save 650,000 and we're reinstating it, but it's actually, we're going to have to look at 650,000. I think that's 1.3 million, which is a lot of money. Of course, it's a lot of money, but when we're looking at the transformation programme and the tens of millions that we're looking at and trying to actually make savings and do things differently, we're hoping that we can incorporate it in that way. As I say, the council's in a different position than it was 12 months ago. It sounds crazy, but we have transformed ourselves with the transformation programme, and it is working. And when you look at adult social care and that side of it, and you look at the budget's about just over 300 million, and we're transforming that side of the council really, really a lot, you can see that lots of savings can be made.
Thanks very much. Are there any other questions?
In that case, I'd like to home.
I'd like to thank you very much.
No, I just want to come up for bringing it to our attention. It helped the cause.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right, I'll now take declarations of interest, and then we move into the traffic calming speed watch, and then I'll formally introduce standing orders after that. I think it's probably dealing with this. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Yes. Item 155, I know the resident at 14 Books.
Right, okay.
Do I need to declare that I'm interested in 149?
You don't.
I know he's nicely highly, so.
Sure, yes, but it's not a pecuniary interest. But thanks for mentioning that.
Just in case, I didn't mention last time about my proximity to the books, and just in case it comes to
yes.
I don't think it's a problem, but I'll mention it anyway.
But anyway, thanks for mentioning it.
No, but
okay.
Just mention.
I think it is on the agenda, actually, very briefly.
Yes.
So, traffic calming speed watch group. Who would like to speak?
I'll speak.
Okay.
I work in the Black Ball, and over the last few months there's been various near misses with the coaches especially. We can't say it was a coach, but a high-sided vehicle went to mount the pavement and spun one of the signs round. We've looked at it closer, and it appears that if you're travelling north into the High Street from the entrance at Prince William Way where the traffic calming starts. You're signposted there at 20 miles an hour, but the traffic coming south through the traffic calming is 30 miles an hour. But when you approach the high street from the Church Lane end, you've got the LED light that says 20.
Yes, yes.
As soon as you come round that corner, there's a sign outside the bull that says 30.
Yes.
So traffic is encouraged to speed up, and that's on the blind left-hand bend just before the pinch point, where traffic is often having to mount the pavement to avoid each other.
Yes. So that, yes. So
How could a traffic calmed area be 20 one way and 30 the other?
well, I mean, you can have traffic calming in 30-mile-an-hour areas. So, I mean,
That should go down to 20. It should be both directions.
yes, I mean, I think that there's we've got two separate issues here. I mean, one is the limit of the 20-mile-an-hour limit, which the parish council can make representations to if that's its decision. But I thought there was also a suggestion, which you said, our Speedwatch group.
Yeah, we would be very interested in manning it, coming up with some of the funding. We do a lot of charity work in the Black Ball. We've raised nearly £5,000 for a charity in Romford, which is actually out of their catchment zone. It's a hospice. And even the poppy appeal, we put £200 through the poppy jar, which I believe was way above all of the other public houses done. So yeah, we are proactive, and we will do what we can to improve the systems down there, especially with the stadium coming.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I mean, certainly I think it's probably something the council will wish to support. But it's not actually within the gift of the council, and I think the clerk gave you a link to the police.
No, I've got it here. It's
right,
yeah,
okay.
Brian Robbins of the it's
Right,
police.
okay. We can certainly give you the links to the person you need to
Contact
contact.
details.
Yes, okay.
Brian Robbins retired several months ago.
Oh, no, he's
So
replaced.
I'm not sure the new person is there.
I'll check it and then I can let you
There is
know.
a link on the Cambridgeshire and Sudbury website to Speedwatch to the council.
So I think we discussed this briefly during councillors' issues last time, but I just wanted to back up your statement. I live in Ward's house, which is on the corner of the High Street and
Right,
Church
yeah.
Lane, so not quite opposite you. And because I'm always crossing the road, I really notice how far. I mean, basically, cars come round that corner too quickly for you to be able to be sure when you cross the road that there aren't going to be cars coming. There's lots of children going to and from schools there. The pavements are incredibly narrow. You
Yeah.
can't actually. There are places where you can't have two people passing one another, so you've got to step into the road. And yeah, there are motorists piling down there, and you know, as they often do, treating the speed limit as a suggested minimum rather than an absolute maximum.
I think, I can't give you figures, but we've watched, Colin's watched, and it's somewhere 85-90% of the traffic coming through there isn't doing 30, it's doing over 40. And you can see that by the sign that flashes up for 20. That is always illuminated. And it's the coaches as well, which is a real concern. It's the Go Whip It coach and the Richmond's coach. The City 7 isn't too bad, but it's the Go Whip It and the Richmond's.
So we could do with actually having a word with those companies if we can get hold of them.
Yes.
I think.
So first Jan is number one.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it'd be a really good idea because you know, there are all these issues. Pedestrians walk along the pavement there, as you know.
We've got some of our customers who are in mobility scooters. They can't use the pavements there.
But just to finish, I do think we need to collect the evidence, which is the reason why Speedwatch scheme are really good. I don't think we can kind of approach people.
Well, if the parish council can help us to get the tools to do it,
Yes.
we will do what we can to do it.
Well,
Sorry, one at a time.
sorry, can I just ask something else? It is, yeah, I mean, this is, as the clerk said, you need to apply through the right routes, but I wondered whether you got any thoughts about how you'd actually organise it between you?
We're only here really to get the ball rolling. We've identified what we think is an issue. I brought it up with Colin. Colin agreed, and here we are today.
Right,
Yes,
okay.
Right.
So, when we discussed this last time, as Janet said, the everybody's aware that there's many problems around there, and you're left with this perversity of a 20-mile-an-hour limit when that should be further back towards the traffic island, at least. But as we've said, it wasn't our responsibility setting it up in the first place. And actually the 20-mile-an-hour scheme is now relaxed, so we might have a better chance of making representations to get that moved.
My personal view is I think that if we were going down that route, because it was certainly something that was suggested when the 20-mile-an-hour limit was originally imposed, which was not accepted at the time, and that is that it should be extended to all the turnings off. So, my state, or the state I live on, off Church Lane, would obviously be one.
So Common Lane would also.
And so on. Yes, that's right.
Well,
yes,
if you remember, we had a resident bring up the problem with Shingo Lane, because Shingo Lane's got 30-mile-an-hour speed limit at the end, which is just exactly ridiculous. And I think we brought up this and asked somebody from the county council, and they said they'd have to come and do a proper assessment and an investigation, blah 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 blah, and it would be thousands of pounds rather than just take out the sign because it's stupid. So as David says, they've relaxed their criteria a bit now, so they're able to take it.
Well, three things. First of all, I'm a trained speed watch volunteer, and in a number of villages, the parish council bought the equipment for volunteers to operate. And as far as 20-mile-an-hour schemes are concerned, the local highways initiative, which I sit as a member, has approved a number of schemes in villages for 20-mile-an-hour section within the village. In Hazelfield's case, virtually the whole village.
Yes.
So that's loads of information then from you, Tony. If you've been involved in these schemes, can you give us some idea of what sort of equipment has been purchased, what sort of cost, how long has an assessment gone? Because presumably, the things that's going to give us reinforcement information about this stuff is somebody with a gun or equipment that can, and it's.
It doesn't necessarily need to be a gun.
No, definitely not. It's an illuminated sign, flags up when people go over the limit. The cost is between £2,500 and £3,000. It's battery operated. The batteries last for about a month or so. You get two batteries with it, so you can be charging one of one. You have the other.
And does this create a lot? Because what I was just thinking, if you think some certain bus companies, for example, seem to be worse than others, then only if you've got somebody that's logging it at the time and have a record could then you use as evidence to go back and complain to the company. So, unless the device you were talking about suggests that that's anonymous data, it's just per vehicle. So it's monitoring.
You have your volunteers as well. The volunteers are there to record the numbers, the vehicle numbers, and the speed they go at. And if the vehicle exceeds the speed limit by a certain amount, they get a letter from the police.
Yes.
If they do it again, they get a second letter. If they do it a third time, they get a visit from the police.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
So it gives
what percentage of cars are speeding, how much they're speeding by, and that's very useful evidence. Then go back and say, look, we've got a problem here. We want to do something about it.
I think
that's the picture of and then they have the report which is fill in.
Do you have copies of this?
I did if everyone. I can give you a copy.
Okay, so we provide you with a copy of this. It's the data that's downloaded by the website, and it sort of explains what a community speed watch is and how you go about setting one up. So
I've been looking online about what is actually a traffic calmed area.
yes.
It can't have different speed in different directions. It has to be a set speed within a zone. So I feel the road down there it's probably not illegal, but it's incorrectly signed. And if the sign didn't say 30, people may not be inclined to pass the one at Church Lane and then naturally accelerate.
When you get to that time, it's on a blind bend, isn't it? So you can't see that the fact you've got that island coming up.
Yeah.
So you get the 30 miles, you can actually put your foot down then, so to speak. But you say, oh look, I've got to slow down here.
But I think if we want to
Sorry, can we speak in order, please? So, Tony then...
Yeah, I mean, it's not incorrect. It's 20 miles an hour up to that system, but it's the psychological effect, because when a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit was introduced on the roads south of Stapleford. Prior to that, there was a 60-mile-an-hour limit. And so when you came out of Stapleford travelling towards Sawston, you just had the back of the sign, the speed sign. When the 50-mile-an-hour signs went up, traffic actually increased in speed because they suddenly saw this limit in front of them. I thought, well, I can put my foot down. So in a sense, it's a
Well,
so one of the things you might want to think about is moving that 20-mile-an-hour limit much further, so it's further away from the
Because at the moment you're instructed you can go faster halfway through it. As a true traffic calming, you shouldn't. It's 20 from the beginning until the end.
Yeah, and the end is
Not
where
20
it's
from
30
the start, then halfway it's 30, but only on one side of the road.
So, Vic and then Janet.
I think that the reason your help is so valuable, though, is that we can't just go back to the county council and say this is stupid. We have to actually prove that it's stupid and prove that it's not working and that people are breaking the speed limit. At least that's the way I understand it. That we can't simply go back and say this doesn't make any sense to us because they will say that they're the experts, and you know, we have to prove.
That's why they've had to come out and fix their road sign then.
I was just going to say, it seems there's two things here. One is the setting up the speed watch scheme. I don't know if we need to take a vote or
Well,
I
it's not really within our gift.
No,
I think we can offer our moral support. And if everyone's in agreement, I'd be happy to do that on behalf of the council. I don't think anyone would object to that, or perhaps they would, but
the other thing is, I was just going to say, second thing, since there is a concern about whether the signs are correct, whether we as a council need to write to the county council and ask them if it is actually correct, whether we can do that.
The speed limit from that sign.
Yes,
It's not 30 coming up to it, it's 30 beyond it.
I mean, I think from taking Tony's point on board, the sort of way forward, I think, would be to give what support we can to the setting up of your speed watch group, and then use the evidence as you gain from that as presented to the county council.
Well, that will build your statistics as what's going on.
Looking at a review of the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. I'm sorry.
With the suggested speed watch,
yes.
Of course, obviously we've had the issue of funds come up because some of this equipment's expensive. Would we give the parish council power to purchase some of this equipment?
I mean, it would be possible for them to put in a 137 application for a grant, and I mean, obviously we may not be able to fully fund, but certainly we can look at it and see, what funds are available at the time. So, yes.
In that respect, on the Highways Initiative, have people successfully applied for money from that?
What,
that scheme for speed watch equipment?
Not sure for speed watch equipment itself, but for the introduction of a 20-mile-an-hour zone in the centre of the village, that's what they've been successful for.
Right.
So in a sense, the money from the highways initiatives has gone into the traffic notices to reduce the speed limit from 30 to 20.
I mean, as I understand it, there is equipment available for loan, so that setting up the scheme would not be immediately dependent. Obviously, it's desirable for you to have your own equipment. I won't argue against that, but certainly it's possible to get going without actually possessing the equipment.
That's the point is that what I'm thinking about is the parish councils have purchased the equipment for volunteers too, so it remains the ownership of the parish council, and also because it's portable, once you've got it, you can take it to other road areas.
Yes.
So, Braden Road would be another obvious.
Yes. Well, the point I'm trying to make is that if they would want to set up a speed watch group, it's not absolutely contingent on our acquiring equipment first. So there is equipment to loan, is there not?
But there's a lot of speed watch groups being set up, and it's very difficult to get hold of this.
Yes, okay.
You want the job back to
yes, I don't deny that, because I said it's, yes, okay.
Well, Kevin's going to say if there are lots of groups being set up as well, then if you purchase any equipment, we can also loan it out to them.
Well, if there are gaps, yes.
Well, if other villages can do it, surely Sawston can. It's twice the size of every other village. Come on, let's have the start.
Yes.
I might actually in my report suggest where we could get 3,000 from.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, as I understand it, there is equipment available for loan. So there's equipment to loan. So there is 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 equipment to loan. So there is
And could we
so-
ask other parish councillors, other parish councils, if anybody locally is doing something similar and has the equipment? Because you're going to do a patch of monitoring, aren't you? And then
Shell will certainly have a
They're doing it at Pampersford because I've got a letter.
Yes,
It works.
so Brian, did you want to come in? No. Okay, sorry, I thought you were doing that. Okay, I think that Maurice concludes our discussion. I think probably, I think the way forward would be for you to set your group up
Yeah.
and put in a 137 application, which the clerk will help you with, and we'll obviously have to consider how much money there is available, and also Tony will look at other sources of funding. Is that correct?
Well, I'll tell you where you get out of the parish council fund.
Okay,
You're not going to spend money on it in the future.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Janet, just...
Is there anything to be done on the signage?
Well, that's what will take the information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we can get highlights that, so we need evidence or, you know, of vehicles. So
Well, is it, yes,
there has actually been a mistake.
sorry,
Yeah. It's the issue of whether it's correct or not.
yes, it's a question simply of maintenance, the signing turnaround, which I thought was one of the points you were making. Then that's sorted. Okay, right.
I don't feel the road is legal for us to do a speed watch because you can't have 20 mile an hour one way and 30 the other.
It's not.
So the signage is wrong.
No, the signing is right. That's just that people don't take notice of it.
How can you get halfway through a traffic cone in 20 mile an hour and then you told you can do 30?
That flasher passes you, tell you to slow down to 20.
Yeah.
That should be at each end of the village, but
Yeah, but then halfway through you told you can go 30.
that's flasher to say slow down, because it's dangerous around there. We mentioned that when they done it for a start, you should have 20 mile an hour speed limit
All the way through.
and they laughed at us and said no.
Okay. Well, I think so. Yes.
Can I just say, yes, I understand the 20 mile an hour limit, but after the cars go through 40, 50 mile an hour,
Yeah.
I come out of Common Lane every single morning at 6:30, and it sometimes takes me 20 minutes. I have to get off my bike and cross the road because it takes me 20 minutes because I can see the lights. In the summer I can't see the lights of the cars, and they'll come round the bend. Either side will come round. Why should I have to walk right way down the road? I cycle all day. I don't have to walk further. I should be able to cross the road.
I know it is an extreme.
So it's not that we're saying 20 miles. They're not doing 20 miles. They're doing 40, 50 miles.
One of the things we were talking about when Colin was discussing it before was if we build up some of this evidence and get some records, let's see if we can get somebody to discuss more radical solutions with us. You know, let's think about having a chunk of the road that's one way only and see whether we can make the pavements wider, because one of the problems is that the pavements are so narrow, isn't it? And if we made it one way, you know, maybe we can think about the traffic flow and see if there's a way of just stopping people bombing through. They could use the bypass instead. You know, if you want to go past, you should use it.
Yes. I think we're moving forward. So that has been discussed in the past, you know, on several occasions. But thank you very much for coming along.
Thank you.
And we're happy to assist you in what ways we can and take it forward. Thank you very much.
We'll come back and let you know what we've done.
Yes, I've just given you my email address. If you can email me, then I'll return the email with the forms and that on it for you. And the information.
Well, could we put it on as an item on our next agenda?
Yes, of course.
Definitely that.
Or do you go appropriate to go to planning committee in January?
Well, the 137 have to go on forward.
Yes, it will do. Yes, yeah. Just thinking of Christmas in a way. But anyway, yes. I mean, you can certainly go on the next January. If you're ready for it to, on next January.
Yeah.
Just
We want to go as soon as possible.
Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Shall we go?
Thank you. Thank you. Right, so moving on, we're now understanding orders. We're now moving to the main part of the meeting. Agenda item 150, which is the minutes of the full parish council meeting on the 8th of November, which I'll go through by item in the usual manner. 127, 128, 129.
Sorry, can I just go back to 128? I just want to thank Neil, David, Kevin and Janet for coming up on bonfire night and helping.
Well, thank you for your, you and the staff.
Thank you.
129, 130, over the page, 131, 132, 133, over the page, 134, 135, 136, 137, over the page, 138, 139, 140. Just on 139, we have filled in and signed the application for discharge of conditions, which I gave to Julie Eyre personally about 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, she's currently off sick. So, and will be until after Christmas. So I had hoped to have got that through by now, but that's the reason for the delay. Apparently, as far as I'm aware, there are no glitches with county archaeology, but we still await the actual discharge notice to come through. 140, 141, over the page, 143, 144, and 145. And deal with the reserve matters issues in the reserve those section of the meeting. So all those in favour of approving those sections of the minutes, please indicate now.
Hold on, I'm not looking, sorry. Yeah.
I think everyone's unanimous. Matters arising
Let me discuss some traffic calming.
That was planning.
Yes, that's planning, yes, which we will come to. Next, 152, which is the, so I don't think there are any matters arising which aren't on the agenda. So if we move on to the Planning and Environment Committee meeting of the 22nd of November, again, item by item. 1, 2, 3, over the page, 4. It seems to have jumped.
As it came up in that item 3, the asset of community value for the J Fountain.
Yes,
it's going ahead.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So, over the page, agenda item 4. Oh yes, that's right, yes. So yes, that's good. 7, yes, 7, just do this one. 7.
Yes.
11. Okay, this is the item on traffic calming bit. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I've been searching through different minutes for it.
Yes, over the page, 6. 7.
5.
Five, sorry, at the top.
Oh, it's 5, yes, sorry.
Jacob Zimmer could care.
Thank you. 6, 7, 8. Over the page, 10.
Number 9.
Sorry, 9, yes, sorry. 13, 14, 15, over the page, and these was a copy of my responses to the inspector's questions relating to Sawston green space allocations, which I didn't mention in the meeting, but which I've asked to be attached to the minutes so there's a record on there. We received a very short notice that we had to provide these, so that's the reason I wasn't able to bring it to the parish council. I think we only had about a week to submit our responses in. So,
as you've just mentioned that, when I came to the local planning inspectors meeting, I was quite surprised by the layout with you, Kevin, sat almost in opposition to your own officers.
I was quite surprised that we were sat at the table.
I didn't know what to expect when I went there.
Yes.
That
makes two of us.
Well, three, I think. But I thought at some time, maybe now or at your discretion later, you could give a brief overview of the response, which you'd clearly done in detail, but we haven't talked about that response here in the parish council.
Well, we did when the original submission went in, but that
yes, but we now are a different council from the one that made those decisions.
And I was careful to indicate I was not actually representing the parish council.
No, I wasn't suggesting you were, and I was interested that you were there, but we didn't have a representative there as a parish council. And in hindsight, I wonder whether that might have not been quite useful.
Well, I was quite surprised actually when I looked back through the representations, because the rules of giving evidence as an examination, local plan examination in public, is that you have to have made a full representation. And I assumed that we had, was a representation that had only been put in under the personal name of the then chairman.
Yeah.
So there was no actual formal representation. If you go back to the
I've been through this because I was. So
that not being in there, we wouldn't actually been able to.
Unless you've been
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean that's the explanation. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think part of the problem is that examinations in public on local plans fortunately don't happen all that often, and the procedure is a.
So was that
yeah, sorry.
So that document that you were effectively presenting was already online. Was that something that was constructed by the parish council or you individually?
By myself.
But you and Kevin were presenting as chairman and deputy chairman of the county.
We presented as district councillors, and I made that very clear.
Okay.
I made that very clear at the beginning of my presentation that we were there as we were there as district councillors.
Local members. Would you know as parish as district members?
I was absolutely scrupulous because I was aware that the parish council had discussed this recently, and I was aware that I had no formal mandate, so I was not speaking on behalf of the parish council.
No, I wasn't trying to. Sorry, it came over that I was suggesting that you were. No, I thought you were presenting yourself as chairman of the planning committee.
No. Local member.
No, it's purely local. It's purely local member representation.
Thank you for clarifying that. Sorry, I wasn't trying to suggest you were misrepresenting.
No. I mean, it would be proper for me to have done so formally in a role as chairman of the planning committee.
That's why I asked.
Yes. So having thrashed that through, those in favour of
the second accept the minutes.
Okay.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Right, we can move now to the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. Yes, I didn't. Yes. So can we?
It's on behalf of
it is, yeah. Can we move now on to the report of the Finance and General Purposes meeting, please, of the 15th of November, and again item by item. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 5, and since we held that meeting, we have received the tax base figures for Sawston, which are slightly lower than they were last year. And the effect of that will be to raise the Band D equivalent tax from £121.56 to £125.46, which is actually an increase of 3.21%. The increase in the precept, you'll recall, was slightly over 3% at 3.03. The tax base does vary slightly from year to year by a small amount, and that, depending on number of single occupancies and also the number of people receiving housing benefit as well. So that, council tax relief. So that's the explanation of that. So if you're voting on this, to be absolutely clear, you're voting on an increase in the Band D equivalent tax rate of 3.21%. Do I have any discussion or proposal?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm a bit confused here. I'm not quite sure whether that's good or not good.
Well, it's slightly...
The figure that will appear on the council tax bills and in the South Cams, the booklet that goes is the Band D equivalent.
Yes.
So it would be the 3.2%.
1%, yes, that's correct. Yes, yeah.
So is that good for our budget or bad?
It's the same amount of money.
It's the same amount. You have a preset figure, which this year was 310,666, rounded to the nearest pound. And in order to get the Band D equivalent, you have to divide that by the tax base, which for this year in Sawston was 2476.2, and that gives you a figure of 12546. Last year we had a total precept of 301,528, which was divided by a slightly higher tax base of 2480.4, which gave a Band D equivalent of 12156.
Does that explain? Basically, you're getting a sum of money from everybody who lives in Sawston, and you're guessing how many people are in each bracket and how much, which percentage of each going to contribute. And when we get the real figures, it turns out to be slightly different. So it means that actually the increase in the parish council bill is more than we hoped it would be, because there are fewer people paying it, or there are fewer people in higher tax than paying it.
That was the bit I
But by 0.2 percentage point, yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So I just want to make that absolutely clear. Tony.
Yeah, two things. First of all, we just talked about this speed watch group, and you did suggest about them applying for a section 137, but I couldn't understand why the parish council couldn't purchase the equipment in its own right anyway and be owned by the parish council. So then down to anyway, so that would be an expenditure. But the county council discussed a couple of important items today, and I'd like to read out the decision on the second item, which is about street lighting. Council resolved by a massive majority to reverse the decision made on the 16th of February 2016 to switch off and or dim the streetlights throughout the county in villages, towns and cities, and to fund any budget shortfall from the general reserves of the financial year 2016-17. Now, the parish council, if you remember, agreed to fund the street lighting through the night period.
It did,
now,
yes, yeah.
I'm sure this decision will have a consequence for that, because in a sense it's saying go back and the county fund all that.
Yes.
So that's likely to have, I'm not sure what will happen in terms of finance this year, that's likely to have an impact next year, I would have thought, in terms of not requiring council to do that, because the county's decided to do it. So it might be that we get that sum of money, which we put into, I'm sure you put that in, might be available for us to use for other purposes.
The total value of street lighting that we put in for is 7345. However, that also includes the 104 former district council lights. So basically, what you need at the which are about 3,500. So we're talking about probably about 3,500, just under 4,000, about 3,800, very roughly.
It's not absolutely clear from the word is but I would imagine that in a sense that money won't be called upon from us next year, in which case that's funding that is available within the budget that we could potentially put towards some speed.
That would be useful, yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Tony. I wasn't aware of that decision.
Well, it was only this afternoon.
I'm sorry, that's a follow-up question to that information then. Is the reversion to not dim and not turn off?
Yes, to switch off and or dim.
So leave them on full all the time?
Yes.
That's it, effectively.
That's quite clear.
Yes, it is.
Interesting, thank you.
So yes, no, thank you for.
That's hot off the present.
Bearing in mind that we will have a request for equipment, either through the 137 or from the parish council purchasing and retaining possession of, I think that sum should remain in there.
Well, that's what I was going to suggest.
Yes, I think that it will actually.
So you've got the flexibility to say yes to it if we decide that at the next meeting.
So basically, you're proposing the budget as it stands?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'll support
Okay. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. Alison. All those in agreement? Thank you. Thank you very much. That has been done now, hasn't it?
So yes, just to agree that we'll remove them.
7, 8, 9, 10, and that's it, isn't it? Yeah. So all those in favour. So I second that and take the second. So those in favour of accepting those minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Right, so returning to the main agenda, the council month of November, which have been circulated, are there any comments on those?
There is an amendment on the checklist for Merlin Riker. The first line of Merlin Riker is actually 2780, not 3768.
3780, yeah, okay.
So it's 2780.
2780, yeah, okay. Thank you. So with that modification.
I've just got a comment. A couple of people have asked me about the expenditure on the clearing up of Bridge Hill after the travellers stayed there, and there's obviously £72 there, free up from the for clearing. But there also, was there any other cost?
Bailiff.
Yes, yes.
That's all new.
And presumably also the general waste, the bagging, which was paid for by South Cams.
South Cams
Yes.
And the lot as well.
Yeah.
The new lot.
Yes, that's not new lot.
So it's just worth
£30.
bearing in mind for, I suppose, we need to take any action about any other sites or anything. But there is this cost.
Yes.
We've already done posts about the outside.
Yes. Yes. So, Vic.
Could I ask about the £18,000 for 8-foot high profile mesh fencing?
Yeah.
I'm sorry if it's just me being dopey, but I don't remember this having come up.
This
This is the football goal.
It's the football
As far as the mill lane and the tie all went through.
Yes.
Was that recreation or at full parish?
Well, it has to go through full parish.
Thank you.
Mill lane and Lindsay were first and then Spices was after, but they all, through recreation.
Could I just ask a question about the tractor fault? Was that all fixed?
Yes.
Okay. Just wondered if there any other cost in that.
So,
That was the chance for them to come out and fix it.
Can I just check that we've got money in for BT for in-office internet, but I thought we moved the internet line in direct debit on the last sheet. I thought we changed our internet supply.
Let me highlight that. I'll better check that.
So, if there are no other queries or comments, can I have a proposal, please, accepted here and seconded by Neil. All those in favour?
Thank you.
Right, so planning applications. So the first one is S317316FL, which is a two-storey side extension and not conversion of 38 Cambridge Road. I hope everybody's had a chance to look at the plans, so do I have any comments on that?
Is this? No.
Sorry,
I was just trying to find the right ones. There are quite a few of them.
I looked at this one and it's really quite a big extension.
It is.
It is.
Janet.
Yes, I was going to say the same thing, that it is quite a big extension. And although I've noticed the pictures, they do seem to be a fairly reasonable size space. But yes, it is a big extension, and we have had in the past some discussion about extensions, quite as big as this in the planning.
But on the other hand,
committee.
out on Cambridge Road, everything's fairly miscellaneous, isn't it? It's not going to be a street scene.
Well, that's,
I think
the house there on the screen
Yeah.
and the surrounding houses. That one to the right there of the two is side to side on the side.
The only thing is, there's any comment by neighbours.
Well, I think it might be helpful actually to have a look at the site plans and also the proposed site elevation.
Have there been any objections? I've not had any to the office, no.
There's just one slight anomaly which I picked up on the plans, and that is on the existing groundwork plan. If the diagonal line which runs down the left-hand side is the site boundary, which it appears to be, then it looks from that plan as if the corner of the garage actually tips it and is slightly over. I just want to know if this drafting or whether that's... Yeah, it's this. No, it's like my own twice out. It's the ground floor one. That's the first floor.
No, it's this one.
This
The one that you just
Oh, yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
So are you saying that the foundations?
Well,
or the,
that's the first one. No, that's the first one.
It was the previous one.
Sorry, I thought it was still without disputing.
That's why we were all helpfully saying yes, it is that one.
It's this point here that I'm slightly concerned about. Yes, it is.
Yes, well, it could just be inaccurate.
Yeah, maybe, yes, but it's nice to have accurate plans, isn't it?
The new bit doesn't.
It doesn't.
If you actually look at the new bit, it says the same, but they're moving it back.
Well, yes, they are. Yes, yeah. Well, the dotted line is the overhang. Yeah.
Kieran, was this the one where you were saying that the reason given was that the person needed accessible accommodation?
Yes, it's
yes.
Brian, will it scroll?
Yeah. So Alison and Janet.
I was just going to pick up this point about the step back and the front elevation.
Thank you.
I don't see why that step back can't still be complied for, that requirement. The fact that it's got a detrimental effect on the master bedroom, I'm not quite sure that's particularly relevant. I don't know. I prefer that.
My understanding from the covering letter is that the reason for the requirement for the extension is to create an accessible living accommodation, and that moving the. I didn't get into the detail, but the covering letter explained that the way the requiring circulation within the room was the reason why, and being able to get to the accessible toilet and the things with the hoists and so on and so forth was not possible with moving it back in the way that the planning officer had requested. But I don't know the full details of that.
Do we think there will be any issues of overshadowing or anything like
well,
that?
that was no street scene isn't, but it's the I think there would be an issue about massing and overshadowing of the neighbour, but as Rob suggested, but I mean you have to form judgment on that.
I think the reason for doing it is that the person then needs to basically have single-storey accommodation that's all accessible, and I guess that it's difficult to obtain that in any other way other than by altering an existing house, unfortunately.
So the proximity to the house next door isn't.
There is some potential overshadowing, I think, to the rear windows, ground floor windows. If you look at the north,
I suggest we accept.
Are you making that proposal? Okay. Do I have a second of that? Okay. So Tony. And those in favour of that proposal?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And 2 no votes. Sorry,
Hold on. Right, how many? 2 no votes. There's 13. Sorry, are you abstaining? Or no vote?
Yeah, I'm abstaining.
Okay, so it's 2 abstentions and 2 no votes.
Yep, so it's gone through.
Okay, so that is a recommendation for approval. So support, yes. Yeah. So the next one is county matter, and it's a further request for extension of time. It is, yes. So does anyone have any comments on this proposal?
This is the gravel pit, isn't it?
It is, yes. The term for quarry, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's just I noted from reading it that the reason for this is originally the work was meant to be done by December 2015, and then it was extended to December 2016, and now they want an extension again to 2017, and the reason that's given is the difficulty in sourcing clay. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes. So I suppose it's noting all of that, and I suppose it's saying, well, is there an issue in it keeping not being done as a village? Is it something that we ought to be concerned about, or not? I don't know.
Yes, I mean it's an activity which has been going on for a number of years. I think as far as the village is concerned, I mean this has been discussed from time to time with the parish council, and that's the diversion. That's the route the lorries take. They're supposed to turn right south out of the site, not to go through Stapleton and Shelburne, to use the bypass, not to go through the village. So. I have in the past occasionally noticed ones going through Stapleton and Shelburne, but not recently. I don't know whether anyone else has any information on that.
Who's the chaps who came to present their plan for turning the whole thing into a holiday village?
Yes, that's a separate proposal though, so that's not what
it
we're
was
discussing
noticeable at the
now.
time though that they had no business plan.
Well, that's not the issue.
Do you want an explanation why they're faffing around?
So I'm proposing support.
Yes.
Do you want to put your condition in again that they turn right, David?
Well, it's as part of the original plan, but I mean, you can certainly put that on as a comment, yes.
It's very interesting. Where do they take the stuff from? That too?
Well, to wherever building is going on.
Oh, I see.
Yes,
So they could still go back.
If they're taking it to the Cambridge Southern Fringe sites, it is, you can understand the temptation to turn left rather than right, because otherwise they have to go all the way down to Tusker, up the motorway, and back in through Junction 11. So, but as I said, that was a condition that was originally imposed.
Stapleton and Great Suffolk Parish Council are very equal eyed about the way it's going.
I'm sure they are, yes. Okay.
Right, Kieran's proposed we support. Second reading.
So all those in favour of proposing support?
1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, let's do it again. Colin, you're not hands up. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Those opposed? 1. Those abstaining?
Sorry, I was not abstaining.
You're an abstaining, you haven't got that yet. 1, 2, 3.
And 2 no votes. 3308, which is the relocation of gas central heating boiler, and this is solely a listed building application.
This house has come up in the past. It's a listed building. They stuck on a UPVC conservatory and then asked for retrospective planning permission, and bizarrely got it. So I think I'm concerned about somebody who's living in a listed building and is not bothering getting planning permission back for anything until afterwards. I mean, in a way, this is less bad than sticking on a UPVC conservatory, but you know, Tony Fell also makes the point that I don't know, but what makes people really unhappy is when the planning system looks unfair, and I just think I'm not at all happy about these people. They've written reams and reams and reams of explanation about it, but the fact remains that they've drilled a hole in the wall of a listed building without bothering to ask for permission beforehand. I actually think it looks horrible. It's on the side that you see from the street. It's very obviously a horrid plastic outlet. But I'm concerned about the fact that this house owner seems to be disregarding the whole system that's been put in place to protect listed buildings.
We don't know it's the same
There
owner.
aren't that many in Sawston. Yeah, I don't know what
I'd agree with what Bex's saying, actually.
But I'm
Whoever's doing it should have regard for it is a listed building.
Yeah,
Well,
however, you can only consider it as the application before you. You know, although I have sympathy for your comments, the fact it's retrospective is not a planning issue.
Well, if it was coming up now, I think,
Yes.
given the elevation and the,
If you consider that it's unacceptable, then,
Yes.
then say so, but not
Yeah.
because of
Yeah, I
retrospective.
mean, the normal account there basically seems to say, oh, it's just a hole, it doesn't matter, we don't care, and it's for the convenience of the householder. But the
front of the building.
whole,
That's the old one.
let me know when you finish your conversation over there.
Sorry.
Yeah, this long version section. Yeah.
Sorry, Brian, did you want to comment?
I was just, sorry, would you just ask me to show something else? I wasn't sure what it was.
the front.
That's not the
The
old
front.
post office.
That's the back.
Yeah,
That's their retrospective apply for conservatory.
I don't think it was.
No, it's not this one.
I think I
Yes,
would.
Bessie's cat.
It's not this one. It's 119.
That's not that one.
It's not that one.
Oh,
I
sorry.
thought it was this.
No, it's not that one.
I believe it's 119.
It's 119.
No, it's nearer to.
The other way.
Yeah, Bernard's, whereabouts in Bernard's place is it?
It's not Bernard's place. It's that way.
Yes.
So it's on the left hand side of that, yeah,
There is actually a
that.
photograph of the duct in the planning statement.
Yes, well, I was just showing that.
So there's
Sorry, we just wanted to see which one it was. So it's
that one.
this one and the conservatory that Beck mentioned just hidden
Yeah,
back there.
it's the one that there was a big photograph of in the application.
Yeah.
So they've supplied a very long heritage statement, which when I read through it seemed to basically be saying that they've moved the central heating and put the central heating out of there for the convenience of the householder. So what I was trying to say was that the whole point about living in a listed building is that you are meant to be thinking about the needs of the building being above the needs of the house owner. So I think their heritage justification isn't a justification at all. I couldn't see anything in that made a case for it. They're basically saying it doesn't really matter. But they don't seem to have made any effort to conceal it. Otherwise, I mean, they're claiming that it's just going to blend in with the house, but it seems to me it's very visible from the high street, absolutely outlet. It's not possible to see what was there before because they haven't taken a photograph of it before they started work. But whatever was on it before was on the back wall. And I think probably the reason they got retrospective planning permission for the conservatory is because that's on the back wall and isn't visible from the street.
It's also not physically part of the building, which is another. I mean, it can be removed without sort of permanently altering the building.
Yeah, and it's also very obviously
that's
more
another
than
reason why. You know, I'm not justifying. I'm just giving an explanation.
No, it's not something you'd usually get permission for.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree because I've written down what I think should look quite ugly. Are we able to propose that we don't support?
Yeah, of course you can. Yes,
They have to reinstate it to how it was.
Yes.
Hold on, what are you proposing, Janet?
Well, that the retrospective application do not
For those reasons that
Yes.
Can we also draw South Canada's attention to the fact that this house has had previous major work
This house has
done
had enough
without
work.
getting it?
Sorry, you seconded it.
Yes, okay. So all those in favour of the recommendation not to support. Right, so that's so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 10.
2 no votes, 1 abstention.
And 1 abstention. I see you abstaining. So 16 Princess Drive again, and there is actually.
Keep coming back, doesn't it? Like a yo-yo.
Yeah, it is actually. There is I think perhaps it's worthwhile pointing out the reasons for refusal last time. There were 4 reasons for refusal. First one related to the loss of privacy and directly looking to the rear garden amenity area and elevation of number 16 Princess Drive, which they have attempted to address in this resubmission by placing a fence along the side of the holiday let. There's an issue about significant noise and disturbance to number 16, which was the second reason for objection, for refusal. There were then two highways related ones. One related to the visibility display, which they may have addressed, so I can't comment on whether they have addressed it satisfactorily without comments from highways, which I don't have, but there has been an attempt to address it. And but the other one relates to parking and the fact that it's in fact it's not possible to manoeuvre vehicles within the site. And that was the second highways objection, which as far as I can see, they haven't addressed. So I think members will have to come to a view as to whether they consider those reasons for refusal have been satisfactorily addressed or whether they haven't.
Can I ask a question? That's got retrospective on it
It
there.
is.
Does that mean it's being used as a holiday?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
For some time?
Yes.
I think we should note that.
Well, as I said, irritating their retrospective applications are, and we all share this. It's not actually a planning reason. It's not actually a planning reason for refusal.
Well, but yeah, there's that indignation that some people just decide they can just wait and take the law.
Well, we've got two people, aren't they? Aren't there? So retrospective, we've got two.
Yes.
And I don't know whether we can write.
You can comment, yes, certainly you can comment. But bear in mind, it's not a planning reason for objection.
But we do have, by the looks of it, perfectly legitimate reasons to object to it and refuse retrospective permission.
Yes,
because they haven't fixed any of the things.
Yes.
Any of the things?
They've attempted to address two. Whether you consider they've addressed them satisfactorily or not is
Well, they've addressed the disturbance issue by putting up a fence.
Well, that's the overlooking issue.
Okay.
And
1 out of 4.
and also the visibility display. I think they've shown on this, which is not on the original present.
Is it to the satisfaction of the councillors?
Yes, exactly.
Parking of vehicles is much more likely to be a problem, isn't it? Which is why we objected to it being a holiday let, because then you've got people driving in and out all the time. It's not as though it's residential.
So sorry, when I looked this up, just this issue of retrospective, we considered this at Planning and Environment again on the 22nd of November, and there was nothing in there about it being retrospective.
No.
And it was not supported then.
No.
So I don't know whether we can propose a motion that our same views
you can say,
yeah.
You want to propose, Janet, that we have the same
Do not support.
They want to ask why it was after the last time it was refused by us. How comes it's now retrospective?
Well, because they have sort of addressed some of the reasons for refusal.
It was still retrospective.
It is still retrospective.
Can I just ask the question? I might be really stupid here, but if you turned down in the first place,
yes,
with our 4 reasons why on earth have they gone ahead, it's happened, it's just making a mockery?
I think it's been since January 2015 it's been let.
Yes, I mean, the original...
It's been let since January 2015.
In the original application, I think it was received sometime in March. It was received on the 4th of July, actually, Independence Day.
Is there an argument about the principle of an annex being converted to holiday let?
Well, it's
I thought an
like-
annex was supposed to be subservient to the neighbourhood.
Yes,
not
the neighbourhood.
separate living.
Well, this is
Whereas if you have a let, somebody's got a living there, even if it's only for a week or so, and somebody else is going to come in.
Yes, it's clearly a separate occupation that's being
Yes, so isn't there a principle of objection about the change from an annex to a let?
I think you still have to demonstrate harm.
I'm fairly sure that when it came in, unless I've got it muddled up with another one, it came in with lots of elaborate explanations about why it was only ever going to be an annex and it was never going to be self-contained accommodation, unless I'm thinking of a different application. But we've definitely had an application for an annex where there were lots of assurances that it wasn't ever going to be.
So we've had a few like that, we always put that it can't be kept separate.
Do we know whether...
Separate letting,
Well, exactly. So presumably there was originally a planning application for building work, and then now this is a subsequent application for change of use, is that?
Yes, yes.
And do you know whether so the objections you listed, were they for the building work?
No,
or change of use?
this is a second change of use application. We had a change of use application which was received by the council on it, I think the decision notice might be on the 4th of July, but it was submitted earlier this year, in April, I think it was. And this parish council didn't support that application. What they've done now is to resubmit, sort of, with some of the reasons for refusal. I mean, it was refused under delegated powers, and the extracts I've taken from the office of delegation.
Yeah. No, I was just going to ask whether, when we were consulted about the original building work, whether we supported it.
I think because things like the parking are very specific to its being holiday let, there's nowhere for vehicles to get in and out, and it's going to make it very difficult for residents.
As Tony says, the question now is about change of use, and I think, well, I would certainly propose that on the grounds that a separate and attached, the precedent that shouldn't be allowed, that having an annex and then being able to separate its use and effectively convert it into another dwelling would be bad precedent from.
I mean, I don't want to guide you, but I think that it might be helpful to refer to the conditions refusal.
Yes, I agree.
I think we should also state that only one of our previous objections has been remedied. And so
those were
two of our previous objections still stand?
Well, two of them are highways objections, they were county objections, yes. The one relating to not being able to move the vehicle on the site, I don't think has been overcome.
Can we put it loosely, deemed to not satisfy all the conditions?
Yes.
That would be a safer.
Yes. The refusal and the number of the application, the previous application was S/1548/16/FL.
Right, so Jan, do you want to add that to yours then, that we do not support same comments before,
Right, so
and then that they're deemed not to satisfy all of our objections?
Well, the reasons for refusal, So I have a proposal along those lines.
Well, that's Janet.
Yeah, and I'll
second.
Yes, okay, so those in favour of that proposal are not to support 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, one abstention to no votes. Right, so we now have application from Tree Works reports, S3131 at 14 reports, and the actual works proposed are listed on your agenda pages. So do you have any comments?
Suppose we accept.
Do I have a second for that?
Second, Roger.
Okay, and all those in support? I think we can vote on that.
Right, so is that?
Yes.
I think I have to say, don't I?
Oh, you're on raise, yeah,
because
you're on
my
my
interest.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, okay. One
So
second.
I'd say, is that right?
Yes, it does, yes.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
It's slowly.
Yeah.
You agree, you're supposed another tree application from S328316 over page 138 High Street. And again, the works proposed are listed on the agenda papers. Do I have any comments on that, the proposal?
I noted that one of the reasons for the application was that a neighbour had raised concerns. So on that basis, I think maybe we ought to propose supporting
Yes, okay.
the application.
So I have a second for support? Yeah. Okay, Alison. All those in favour of supporting this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, the neighbour could just block the bond.
Good, actually, well, sycamores do tend to drop as well.
Sorry?
So sycamores do tend to drop as well, they can split them, isn't it? So, S3282, again to 138 High Street, and that relates to, I'm not quite sure why these are separate applications, anyway, there it is.
It's the same tree that's pollarded in the other application.
Yes, it is actually, yes. Yes.
One's on the brook side and one's over on the
Well, they're both the same tree, they're both listed as T1, so...
Propose support.
Okay. So all those, Kieran and Janet, so all those in favour of support? Okay. Right, so moving on to Ransom's motor service and agreement to cost. This is an annual item, to be mentioned.
Sorry, yes, so we've managed to get
Sorry, Liam, I think Liam, are we happy to note
we'll go through
three items for information?
Sorry, I was only going to raise, just on reference to 38 Woodland Road. We supported this on 23rd of August,
yes.
but we received a note for information that the application had been withdrawn.
And now it's come out again.
And now it's come back
again.
it's
come back and forth.
Yeah, so it's just, I suppose, that seems to be happening there.
Okay. But it's a non-material amendment.
Yeah, this was the place where they won the appeal. And
yes,
the same way won the appeal, they got a second application.
Yes, yeah.
And Cameron's told us to choose which they wanted.
Yes.
That's how it happened, was it? It's just that it seems to be a bit of a confusing situation.
Okay. So, are we happy to note those? Right. So, moving on to 156, the Ransom's mower service agreement costs. And
well, we've managed to get 2 quotes. It's quite difficult to get quotes because obviously it's for a service. They don't know what's additional cost until they service it. We've had one quote for £2,000 plus VAT and another quote for £779.79 plus VAT. But obviously there will maybe additional parts needed when work starts, so it's a bit hard to.
Yes.
Bring up to the amount that's well, this thing you can't get actual quotes for service because until they service the machine, you don't know what else is wrong with it, what it needs. So this is basic service.
Yes.
Do the oil filters and everything, but then it depends what happens when they get the machines.
I mean, I think that would be.
But we need to agree.
Can we agree a figure? So what was the lowest one again?
The lowest one was £779.79.
So what did the £2,000 one include?
Well, it's the same.
So I would suggest, do you think up to 1,000? Does that give us enough headroom for?
That's not
I mean, it depends.
This is mostly 1,000, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, 1,500 then.
Yeah.
Well,
that's fine. Well, yeah, I think we need to come because otherwise we
need, I think, to choose one of these quotes.
Yes, if we agree to go with the lower quote company that spend up to
yes, that's kind of what I was suggesting. I was assuming we would go with the lower one. But I wanted to propose a maximum amount.
And then the one people that did it last time, Alan was quite happy with what they've done. So we go with the lower quote company that spend up to £1,500.
That's my proposal.
Seconded. All those in favour of that proposal? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. So, so we have 3 S137 applications in 157, 158, 159. The first one is for Suffolk Mines, who have asked for a contribution of the whole cost of installing a defibrillator.
Before we deal with these, can you qualify how much we've spent and what we've got?
I did email this out to everyone, but you should have a sheet of what we've spent so far. I mean, we've got 4,600 in the donations account. Thank you, Colin.
That's how much we spent and how much is in the kitty.
Yeah, that's what's left. Oh, there's 4,000 in the kitty.
Can I ask a question about the effectiveness of the defibrillators and how many we need for the whole village?
How long is
That's the question I've got.
Yeah, I was the same question. How many lives have actually been saved by defibrillators? Because, yeah, this is taken as read and it's quite a high unit cost. They're also saying, it'll be for everyone within a 1 mile radius, but there's already a defibrillator within a 1 mile radius.
Oh, is that where?
Well, within a 1 mile radius.
There's one, it must be within a 1 mile
It's within
radius.
a 1 mile radius. Very obviously within a 1 mile radius. Most of the village actually is within a 1 mile radius.
So my question is, do we really need another one in the village? I asked myself the same question and did some research on it this afternoon. And clearly, if a trained operator, somebody who knows how to use them, uses them on somebody that's got the right condition, so you have to know. You have to reckon.
No, you don't. You don't have to be trained or anything.
You don't have to be trained. Just give me a second, because there's a different outcome for most people who do know and those who don't know, and so there's just a question mark over their effectiveness with people who don't know.
I mean, the models we have actually have a routine that talk you through the process. So it's just
And it won't
possible.
work if it won't work if you need to be suspect. It won't.
Right.
It won't
Because
work.
this automation protects the person from something being done wrong.
As soon as you lift the lid up, it tells you what you need to do.
And the modern ones are quite smart actually. It's not jealous.
I was just going to say, I agree with what you've said, but as a separate point to that, since this is a mental health charity and we know there are lots of people with mental health issues, I would prefer to support something that actually was going to be beneficial to people's mental health. So on that basis, I think I'd like to propose that
They also mention that there are dead, there have been dead.
Yes, but
and they mention the nature of the death.
No,
If you can save a life,
no,
and there have been dead.
They're not actually saying that some of those deaths would have been saved by a defibrillator, are they? They're saying it could possibly save them in the future.
I mean, it is a relatively small, well, very small number of deaths that would actually be prevented by defibrillator. Defibrillator possibly causes it.
Well, I think and that's exactly what I'm asking. I think I'd like to know more statistics before spending this amount of money in an area that seems to already be serviced by a defibrillator.
And potential alternative. What if we move a defibrillator that we already own?
No, we need them at pavilions. Because we're sponsored pavilions, we've got to go in public places, so we can't move the ones we've got.
I mean, the sports context, absolutely the situation which defibrillator can do most good. Because if a young person has a cardiac event on the field, it's rare, but it does happen. Then, if you use defibrillator on them, they normally have a very good prognosis.
Some football things have defibs on.
And you're also more likely to have a qualified first aider around, aren't you, in that situation?
Well, exactly, yes.
But I think, if you watch medical dramas, people are almost inevitably revived by a defibrillator in real life. Even in medical conditions, the chances of it reviving are more like 1 in 10, 1 in 20.
In which case, your suggestion is probably a good idea, find out more details about the actual nature of the people who died actually being saved by the
That's the statistics that I was trying to refer to earlier. Say there's a real beneficial effect of treating people with defibrillators in those circumstances where the delay in getting them to hospital or under paramedic would otherwise.
But as the applicant is implying that a defib within a 1 mile radius is useful, then perhaps we need to point out to them that they already have access to one within a 1 mile radius.
Probably 3 actually, it's only Mill Lane within a 1 mile radius, but this will be nearer.
I mean, is it possible that they don't actually know that?
No, they do, because he's been to see me, because he wasn't about the office one, which is how he knows how much it costs.
A couple of other things worry me. It's not actually mentioned that it would be in a publicly, continuously publicly available place. And also, I don't actually think I don't like the idea that we're being approached for the whole amount by a charity. I mean, I appreciate it, but as things stand, this application could be to put something in for the benefit of the residents, which is fine, but one of our tests for S137 is about the number of residents that this grant could potentially help, and I worry that the benefit, cost benefit is not on the right side for this.
I still think that I'd like to read the point about, I would have preferred to have seen an application for something that was going to benefit mental health.
It does actually seem odd that this is what they want to ask for money for.
Yes. Well, I personally thought the application was very sort of oddly worded. There have been deaths. People die from hunger. Most of which are completely unrelated to defibrillators. Could be prevented by defibrillators.
And I'm not aware of any causal relationship between mental health problems and heart problems.
Well,
So I do hope that we don't support this.
Hold on. No, I just want to make sure I get my reasons correct. Right, Kieran, do not support.
Yeah, so on the grounds that
There are ones close by.
yes, that there are close by, that it's not clear that it would be completely available all the time and maintained continuously. I suppose it does say.
But
it's not totally clear that it would be available in a public space.
Your other point was that it wasn't benefiting.
Yeah, and also there's, as it's a charity applying, but without demonstrating any other match funding or asking us to pay the whole amount, we'd expect to see
The contribution from that side.
contributions from other sources.
So, did you mention there that we've already got one within a mile?
Yeah.
What they're trying to I think we need to emphasise that as a point as well.
yes.
Sorry.
I can check exactly what part of that's on if you want to leave the wording there open, but but I think there are 3 within a mile.
Sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, vote. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Any abstention? Any against?
One against.
Against? Abstentions?
Sorry, Tony, what were you for then? In favour, sorry, Brian, I don't know if what you were in favour. So everyone's in favour, just one against.
Not supporting.
Not supporting.
Yeah. So,
No, that's...
okay. Right, so the donation for Sawston Nursery. And again, you have the paper here. Papers outlining your reason for the request.
I'd like to cut to the chase and say this is perfectly reasonable and I propose to support it.
I'll second that.
Right.
My only question was what they need the clipboards for.
There's any argument in there, isn't
So
there?
that you can walk around pretending to supervise the work.
That's right, yes.
It's got one sheet
The
on.
kids are the ones that don't
Let's make that council
Are we supporting this because they're helping keep the village tidy?
Yes.
Yes, and also...
It's because the council needs that we can then...
It's just, Sawston Nursery are a
Charity.
Yes.
No, they're not. They're an independent organisation who rent a building from John Hunter.
They are a charity.
Well, that's their
So
association.
they are a charity.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, vote for. Sorry, Janet.
I was going to make a comment. Sorry, Alison. There are a number of spelling mistakes.
Really great on me.
It is annoying, and particularly if it's a nursery that is aiming to teach young children. And
That's not page. There.
It's a shame. I mean, I'm quite happy to support the application, but I think it's a shame that, you know, we have early needs and education needs here, and again,
I think we're considering the application, not marking it, actually. So those in favour of support, and that would be for the full amount requested.
Yeah.
Right, so, and application can relate, so we supported before.
Well, we've already spoken before and asking for the same amount again.
I did make it clear to them when I spoke to them that if we did fund it, it'd have to be out of, obviously, we'd do it for next year's budget, because we've already given them that amount this year.
Yeah,
But that's
we've
fine.
already said that.
We said that in the original agreement. So, do I have a proposal? Okay, fine. Janet, and seconded by Vic.
I think when we had the discussion before, we just a useful proposal.
So all those in support of 1,500 for late.
So is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Those against? And those abstaining?
I'm just abstaining because I think
Okay.
apply to every parish council, and I'm not sure that they know what the aggregate is.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that these are specifically for sessions.
They are, yes, they are, yes.
Yes, so residents will be treated outside of the area.
We also see Sawston residents that are other venues across the county.
Yeah.
So that just means that as well as
yes,
the sessions here.
Yes.
So I don't, because again, that was something that JHC considered, you know, when we contribute towards them as well. I'm fairly sure these are specifically for Sawston residents.
Sorry, I've got
You're still saying, so, right, so that is approved. So 160, request for a tree at cemetery, and you've seen the attached letter.
Do you know whereabouts the tree would go to the cemetery?
Well, what's our general policy on more trees?
Well, I think it's a bit like benches, really. I think if you let someone plant a tree,
It's frowned upon.
and then
I mean, I
don't know if
think
you need to
but
burn to the cemetery.
I mean, there is the additional issue with trees and indoor maintenance, and the way it's a bench doesn't. So, yes.
George deferred to the cemetery meeting.
Yes, okay.
Do we not have some trees that need to be replaced there anyway?
So yes,
We've got one or two what need looking at. So until we've got a resolve on that, it's first just to wait.
It might well be that there's a tree that needs replacing, so that we could ask this person if they'd like.
We can also find room for trees, but they've got to be put in the right place.
It has been proposed that it's referred to cemetery.
So if you want to defer, you want to propose that, we'll discuss it then.
Sorry, Rob had a question.
Well, no, simply if you defer it to cemetery, it will come back to all council.
Well, it will anyway, but I can get some advice from the trees officer on that first.
We've got 2 or 3 back trees in the cemetery, so it's no use doing anything until we know what's happening to those.
And the rear of the cemetery is relatively treeless, isn't it? And
It is, yes.
Is that part of your remit to the rear, the new area of the rear? It's barren of trees. There's nothing. There's only anything on the perimeter. Is that something that we would?
The simple reason on the perimeter, we've got the farm road go round.
Yes.
And these trees do grow, and unfortunately they overhang our track, and that can be seen by the village college, which have got trees about 5 metres in, but they still overhang, and we have to trim them.
I was thinking about having more decorative, like the avenue at the front.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
I mean, I think we agreed to defer this.
No, we just need to vote on
Okay,
it.
so those in favour of referring this to cemetery. Okay. So action items.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was a matter of it sounds like a matter of general policy, so it made more sense to me to discuss it here now rather than
Yeah, but we're going to remove
particular cases.
You might be.
As long as you come up with something sensible, fair enough.
I mean, I think
Because there are some trees that might need removing, they could maybe be replaced, but until the trees officer comes out and tells me that...
Well, that's what I'm basically suggesting, that our criterion when people want to put in benches is that we say, yes, you can, but they have to go where we say, and they have to be the kind of benches that we would approve. And I thought, we could do exactly the same with the tree. We would say, you can't just shove in a tree, obviously. Yes, if you'd like to finance the replacement of tree, and then it just becomes, it's one of the cemetery trees that we...
But then once we know which trees need replacing,
Has the tree got to come down in front of the cemetery?
Well, yes, I mean,
we don't know yet.
we have agreed to refer this to cemetery planning, so
We
perhaps we should discuss it.
So we abstain, you against?
No, we're voting against, because I thought it more useful to agree a policy now, but I didn't actually have the chance to say that before we did the vote.
Good. Right, okay, so I thought we had voted, didn't we? Right, okay, so I thought we had. Okay, so request for Christchurch Cambridge Police Day account, which I think is this is an annual event they run down there.
They're normally, unless they've changed their name, they're actually called Christchurch South Cans.
Yes, I think
so they don't have anything.
Misprint, I think.
They don't have anything to do with Cambridge.
Christchurch South
They're Christchurch South Cans. They're a branch of the Church of England that exists.
It is the same organisation, yes.
Well, I think that's the wrong name for them then.
Well,
it makes it look as though it's a church based in Cambridge, isn't it?
Anyway, it's on Saturday, 15th of April, they hold at Tammy Orchard Park, so it's just agreeing for them to use it.
I mean, there's no cost to the council, it's just a... So all those in favour of supporting?
Yep.
And all agree, thank you. Signs for Orchard Park.
Yes, so on recreation, a couple of months ago we agreed to get some signs, and basically I've got some wording done. I went onto the company to ask them.
Let's have a look.
So don't be changing them because I've already asked you. So basically, keep on the leads at all times, Sawston Parish Council, top one which we said we put at the front, the top of Orchard Park, then one by the car park. And then Alan asked for the fly tipping. This was all been agreed, I'm sorry. So no fly tipping, anyone found doing so will be liable for prosecution. And then the third one, he was asking about cars to be parked at their own risk because he's left signs out for asking people to move their cars because he wants to stream and that, and they've not moved them. So it's A or B, well, C1 or C2 for... So you've either got users of this car park do so at their own risk. Sawston Parish Council will not accept responsibility for any damage, losses or accidents. And then it's the same below, but obviously the... So yeah, that's what I thought, that one.
It needs some bigger time to draw people.
But it is way through, yes, yeah.
Hierarchy of information. But if the problem is that your car might get trimmings all over it, well, no, say that, because the problem with that is
it's a general,
I know, I think that's a problem with it.
Because it could be vandalised or broken into, couldn't it? So you see signs like that in most car parks actually these days.
And these are all our standard signs, green signs, white writing.
Going up and...
Exactly. Lethal those.
So it costs us to have, basically the signs are £120 each, so it's going to cost us £480 plus VAT to have the 4 signs, posts and everything to go with it to put them up.
Yes.
The problem with the fly tipping sign for me is I've seen signs before that say no fly tipping when it wouldn't have even occurred to me that it was a good place to dump.
Well, we're putting it where they are dumping it.
Yes.
And then we've got to sign off South Cams and put it there, and then they dumped everything on top of the sign.
We don't put out gratuitous
Do we
signs.
think it will stop them?
Well, probably not, but at least we're doing something about it.
It is an indictable offence. It's an environment crime.
But
Well, presumably
does
you
the sign
see
make the
somebody
offence
in
more
the
or
act
less?
and have
Well, it attracts people to yes. I mean, it attracts people to the.
There is a feeling that the people doing it are known, and once the sign is up, it will give groundsmen more authority to deal with the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, because next we'll be voting on Alan's Gilly suit, so we can work out for them.
But as I was saying, does it make the offence more or less indictable? It's still an offence whether or not there's a sign there or not.
Yes.
It just seems to me it's safe to have £140 and spend that on a prosecution rather than on the signs.
Well, yes, if you can get the evidence.
But you agreed through recreation to have these signs, so that's what it's doing, so we'll wait for the wording.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't actually remember.
Well, yes.
I know we discussed some other signs of recreation, but I didn't.
Now we did discuss the hot dogs, and also Alan explained there's bark constantly being tipped over Orchard Park, blah blah blah.
So, can I have a proposer?
To go with all four.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Sorry, who proposed?
I think it's Neil, and then it will go around. Okay.
Second to Roger.
Yes, okay. So all those in favour of installing those signs?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah.
Those against? And 1. And those
abstaining.
Right, okay. County Council Gritting, I think, has been dealt with already.
That's all.
164 is that we had a recall as the S106 in Common Lane. We were asking for 67,500. There is actually a tariff by which these charges are calculated in relation to recreation, which you have a copy of, and that was what the original suggestion of 40,000 was based on. Now the question is whether we would like to ask for anything on top of that, and one suggestion which has come forward is that we've asked for a pedestrian crossing at the village college, which would clearly be used by any children coming from this development using the shortest route to the village college.
Well, that sounds fun.
So I think there's possibly there might be an opportunity there, and I'm very happy to listen to other suggestions. Janet.
Well, I was just going to say something about this application when it was discussed at the Planning and Environment, I think. The concerns were about the traffic Common Lane. We already heard earlier from the speed watch enthusiasts about the difficulty of coming out of Common Lane. So I was wondering, noting here that we put forward requests for other infrastructure improvements that will be considered, whether there is anything around that area of, the Black Bull and Common Lane that we could do to improve the pavement.
We could suggest that.
Yes, I mean, I think the difficulty is that you only have 12 houses down there, as I recall, and you obviously have to be cautious. I mean, you couldn't charge to that the whole cost, say, of putting a traffic light control one-way system around that corner.
No, but if we're justifying the cost, if we're justifying a larger amount than the calculation requires, then to say that the council is hoping to improve traffic calming measures that will directly affect residents of Common Lane would be as legitimate as saying that we're installing a pedestrian crossing that residents will likely be using, is it?
Yes, but I think it would have to be related to a definite scheme that was, in train. Whereas a pedestrian crossing is, because we already put that request in. The difficulty, I have a lot of sympathy for what you're saying, Beck, and I'm not trying to put it down in any way, but I'm just thinking of how one could justify it on the grounds that you can have up to 5 S106 contributions towards a single project, and I think the difficulty what it is, that you need a costed project which was likely to receive funding from other sources in order to justify what would probably be quite a small contribution to this development.
But we've already voted to support the initiative that the Blackboard's been making.
Yes.
So it's a definite thing that's already...
So,
I mean, I know what you mean. If it was slightly more nebulous, if we were at the stage that we were at last month, then we wouldn't have anything that we could actually point to.
Yeah.
But given that we've actually voted to support it and voted to start investigating funding from other sources,
yes. So what actually you suggesting this money should be put toward the speedwatch scheme or the equipment or actually improvements on the junction? We don't really have a scheme.
If you think that all we can back up is the speedwatch scheme, then let's suggest that it's used to back up the speedwatch scheme.
I think that would be quite strong.
I can make suggestions because clearly there are lots of different ideas floating around here. Rather than something concrete that we can pass to motion. Is it worth having a small working party just to
Well, I think we need to respond to this quite quickly. I don't think there's really time for a working party. Because I mean, I was
going to say two things. One is the sort of improvements I was thinking of was the lady who spoke earlier talked about buggies and motorised scooters on pavements and whether we can do something with drop downs along the roads, so it actually improves the appearance along there and also makes it easier for people to go along. That would be something. And also this issue of costing. As I understand it, the common lane development hasn't been fully approved yet.
It hasn't, no. But I mean, I think it's helpful, even if we don't support an application, to have a line of, if it were proposed, if it were supported, this is what we would want. Because, I mean, I've seen this happen so many times on planning committee that parishes oppose and don't come up with any suggestion. Then when it's approved, we miss out completely on any NS106 contributions. So I think we do need to be thinking about this, even if we don't approve, even if we don't support the application.
So how might we best respond to the question, which was, why do you want this much, I think?
Well, yes, I mean, I think...
Is that a summary?
I mean, certainly, the original suggestion was 40,000, which is what came forward from the open space calculation. I think you could certainly ask for, I think you would ask for a contribution towards some pedestrian crossing, probably not a huge one, because probably the parish contribution to that, I think, is we got to 15,000, I think. So, I mean, bearing in mind that potentially there are 500 households that could benefit from that, and you're talking about 12 of them. I mean, I still think you would ask for some money, but proportionally, it's not going to be, you can't ask the whole 15,000. So apart from that, I'm open to suggestions. I mean, if you feel that, certainly within the development, drop curves should be standard anyway, because that's part of the design of the...
I was thinking along the high street, along the main road, that's something that will make it easier for scooters, wheelchairs.
But I think it could do, actually.
Simply because we did highlight this issue of it could be dangerous for people turning left and right out of common lane and the increased traffic.
You mentioned drop curves down common lane. Some of the pavements down there aren't fantastic, and I know some of the old people who live down there have difficulties when it's icy. So even some of the pavements down common lane could potentially be looked at.
You can ask for improvements, but you can't ask for maintenance.
It's not maintenance, it will be an improvement.
Is there a mirror when you come out of common lane?
No, they don't. They don't move finger around that.
They do smart windows.
I used to live down common lane and it can be quite...
I think we all negotiated that junction at one time, but I lived down there or not.
Well, I'm just trying to think of a way to make it safer.
I agree. I've never fully understood why Cambridgeshire does not permit mirrors, because certainly travelling around in other county authorities, I see quite extensive use of them, whether they're privately installed or whether they're...
Well, that's why
Yes. No, I mean outside Cambridgeshire, I don't know whether
I think we've got more chance of being successful if we have a scheme that is really a consequence of this development, and therefore I think we've got much more chance of something where Common Lane is the high street than we have in terms of crossing outside the village college, because you've only got 12 houses, and how many secondary pupils are going to come from that? Maybe 3 or 4. That developers could easily kick back on that and say, you know, this is just not on, but everyone's got to come out from Common Lane onto the high street. I think that's where we ought to concentrate on that.
I'll concur with that.
I was going to say, although it was possibly dreaming a little bigger than it could be expected for this, but someone did mention previously when we discussed traffic calming measures, traffic lights at the end of Common Lane.
Well, yes, I think that's too much for a development of this size. I mean, it could be a contribution towards that, but I think there's actually some realistic possibility of support from other sources.
You couldn't put, for example, in the roundabout, there's probably not enough space there, is there?
Putting better traffic calming.
We can't name a specific traffic calming. We can't name a specific traffic calming measure because we haven't done the initial data that would support taking measures or have the discussion as to what measures would be most effective.
Well, I think it's now if you had a hump going right across the road, that way you wouldn't dare go a bit more than 20 miles an hour, take your front end.
Yes, sorry, Roger.
They're on about now these humps in the road are causing more pollution than anything else, so they want to get rid of them now, they're going to start taking them out.
Yeah, don't forget also, it's quite close to a bus stop. You have somebody descending the stairs on a double-decker bus and going over a large hump.
The speed cushion is what we've got near the house next where you've got 2 squares. So ambulances and buses can just straddle them, so they're not held up, but it's just cars there.
Yes, I think it's quite interesting though, watching the behaviour of some motorists. They swerve right out of the middle of the road. Right.
So I just wonder whether it would be helpful at this stage to say that what we would want to do is get the S106 phones to do, I was going to say traffic calming, but actually traffic enhancements around the junction of the Common Lane and the High Street.
I think
on the basis of the additional traffic that will be generated on top of an existing problem area.
Yes, I mean, I think something along those lines. Yeah, I mean, I think what it would be helpful to do would be to get a county highways officer out there again to discuss the problem and what might be done to alleviate it, and you know, any scheme that is suggested, then money could be put towards it.
Well, the contact will be Andy Preston then.
Okay, there's Andy Preston now.
Can you include the footpaths and pavements in that?
Yes, if you want to propose that, you can vote on that. Okay, do I have a second?
Is that not going into the pot of change?
Yes, I think yes.
So we need to get an election of options available to us.
I didn't want it just to be narrowed down to the road. I wanted something about
yes, I mean, it's
Before we take the votes ready, I did just want to ask, will there be anything concerning street lighting with the new developments that may be affected by what we're talking about here? I don't know, which is why I thought I'd ask.
Well, I mean, it's... We'll be lighting on it, yes. I mean, it's, you know, which will presumably be done to council standards.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a condition of the approval, wouldn't it?
Yes, I mean, yes.
No,
I mean, that wouldn't be additional S106 money.
I thought I'd mention it whilst we were doing it.
So, those in favour of that course of action?
Well, propose
Well, I thought we had a proposal.
I'll propose that.
Could you just quickly go over the course of action one more time just to make sure everyone knows what...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bit lost with what we're actually proposing. Sorry.
We're proposing to have an on-site meeting with the county council to bring forward, and
you'll get your
what
good.
we're discussing
Yes,
is the justification that we're giving for asking for an enhanced payment from this particular development.
Yes, we are. Yes.
So, but that's what's being proposed. That we're not proposing to speak to county council. That's
That's the consequence of it. Yes. Okay.
So we need to get some cost
Yes. So those in favour of that proposal.
Oh, hold on, sorry. So Brian proposed that. Second, right, okay, I'm ready for the vote.
So those in favour.
Put your hands up then.
Okay.
Thank you.
SLCC, Society of Local...
That's just our memberships, £200 a year.
The Society of Local Council Clerks, SLCC.
£200 a year.
We have subscribed to this over a number of years, and they provide plant training and support for the clerks. So I think
Joe finds it useful.
I do,
Joe, do you want it again?
So I propose we go for it.
yes. So always in favour. Okay.
Yeah.
Recycling the Christmas tree for charity.
Well, this was...
I'm not quite sure what...
Well, no, it was for the Christmas tree. At the end of Christmas, they do Arthur Rank Hospice.
Oh, right.
Will recycle. Will come and collect it and recycle the Christmas tree for a donation. So I just wondered whether.
Brilliant.
Well, I just wondered whether you wanted to do that or do something else.
So.
For donations, the Arthur Rank is local volunteers and businesses to help with the Christmas tree recycling scheme. So companies that want to get rid of their real Christmas trees while supporting the charity's new hospice. Just register online. And then,
they come and collect it.
yeah. They're asking at the moment, they're trying to, so if we would be interested in offering sponsorship in some way, so much.
What would be the alternative? Keeping it and allowing what is shredder and putting it in there?
It would be,
Or taking to the tip?
There's not you lot, I just thought that was quite a good idea. It's in the Cambridge Southampton policy.
No, really, if we can help the hospice, I mean, I would support it strongly. Sorry.
No, that's...
I just wanted to clarify, because it sounded from the way you read the advert as though they were actually asking for sponsorship of the scheme rather than for companies for applications from companies who wanted to use it in return for a donation.
It's asking, you want to get rid of their real Christmas trees. It says, I'd have to check. It says residents simply register online to have their tree collected. But then we could be...
If they're thinking of domestic size ones, that's a bit of a problem, do you think?
As I say, I think...
Maybe I'll just double check it for more information because they haven't said actually a size now. I read it and thought, oh, what a great idea.
I mean, if they're offering to take the tree and it helps them financially, then
maybe it's just
I'd be more concerned if we were, if
let me get some more information because we might want to take it down.
It might be a nice thing to advertise around the village.
Well, it's in the South Cams magazine, close to the house.
And I didn't read that the moment it got through my door.
Let me ask you some more information.
So you're ordering it over Christmas then?
Yes, I'm saving it up.
Don't get to page 23 just yet. Save that one.
Well, what's the in through Peter Mill's season?
No, that's fine.
Right, okay then, so we don't need to wait for that, do we?
No.
Right, meeting agenda. Did you ask this to come on, Brian?
I did, thank you,
Yes.
and I won't take long because I want to go home and have some chocolate cake. So,
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday! Cake, and should have eat some. But the agenda item describes it's very self-referential because we don't know what it is. doing.
How do we create agendas is the question.
Right, okay. Well, there's more.
Yeah.
It's not just about the creation, but it's also this issue of putting enough information so that beforehand we've got an idea of what we're going to be discussing, and we could go and do some research if we wanted to. And so I think the whole question could be evaluated, and perhaps we can defer it till next time.
Well, we should like to refer it to Open GP, which should be a normal committee for discussing that detail.
Is that a reasonable place to discuss it to start with, and then it move back to...
Yeah. Was that your idea then?
Which one?
That. That's all down there, and we got it twice.
Okay.
We'll add that in there so that you knew what was being attached to it.
Yeah, I'll propose it.
Second.
Referring to it.
Yeah.
So all those in favour of referring this to deputy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Correspondence. Thank you, Dave, from the First Source and Scouts for our donation of £50 for the help and bonfire night.
You find our hive is...
No, so we need to discuss that.
Every year we loan you that tray full of them, and we'll always bring them in advance. And we'll always pick the first one. And there's some 24, 36 high-vis jackets on missing.
Oh, right.
I'm
sure I've seen a box of them in here after.
No, you haven't. So basically, they were there, and then when Richard went to put some tables away back in the marquee, they weren't there, and I've checked with the ATC who are up there, and they do seem to have disappeared. They then came back here. They were certainly not on the van when Richard cleared everything up. I've checked even with Bellbird and the ATC, and both of them saying they weren't booked up. So
car boot sales.
we need to discuss it.
How much should we get for this jacket on a car boot sale?
Especially with some of them saying Rotary clubs.
Yeah, but they're all little boy sizes, aren't they? So
Some of them fit the lads and some of them fit adults, so we have to have a ratio.
Okay, right.
So we need to make this an agenda item to discuss.
Yes, okay. Yeah, okay.
But in connection with the letter, I did think they did a good job.
They did, actually, yes.
So perhaps ought to note that.
Yeah. So, update by County Council.
Yeah, well, I haven't had a chance to do a written report to Joe because there were two important issues discussed at the County Council.
Yes.
We've already covered integrity to some extent. Gail and I did make representations about Sawston because Sawston was particularly hard hit in relation to the final document which came out. And I made the point in the council discussions this afternoon that there'd actually been no consultation or discussion in any way with parish councils or town councils. And I thought that was really important because so often it seems to me that officers do things but they don't inform people of what they're proposing to do, so they get no local impact input into decisions, and then you firefight an outfit to try and put right things that shouldn't have been done in the first place. So I thought that was an important point to make. I've already mentioned about the other important item we discussed, which is the street lighting, and certainly my reading of that is that we won't be asked for any funding for that next year. One thing you might have read about in the press is about the guided bus, and I reported on that to parish councils recently because there are issues in terms of the guided bus, the busway itself, and the quality of construction of the busway. The County Council regards certain features as defects in the design and construction. Balmoral does not accept those as defects, so we're in a bit of an impasse, and recently the county decided to start legal action to, in a sense, to make sure that what we feel is wrong is put right, and that was based on a very, very extensive report from our engineers, and all that's in the public domain. It's in the General Purposes Committee, which met a couple of weeks ago. There's about 50 or 60 pages of technical report. sign. And because that involves large sums of money, we think it requires about 35 to 38 million pounds to put it right. And obviously that is, even in terms of council's finances, that is a big sum of money and very significant. So I thought it was important to report that to parish councils. I wanted to end on a positive note on here, and you may or may not realise it, but the county council is actually responsible for over 500 looked after children, and the councillors are the corporate parent of all those children. And within that number, there are 61 unaccompanied child asylum seekers that the county council looks after. As far as unaccompanied child asylum seekers are concerned, what happens is that when they're found, they become the responsibility of the local authority in whose area they're found. And of course, if people stow away in lorries, and then when the lorry stops, and then they get out, and then are found by the police and social services get involved. And because this sort of broad area came to Northamptonshire, it's often the first stop when lorry drivers have driven several hours from the port. That means that we, in a sense, get quite a few registered unaccompanied child asylum seekers actually found within the county. Somebody found very, very close to Sawston, I should say. So these are not all the child asylum seekers, these are only the unaccompanied ones, the ones who are found without any parents or relatives with them. And I mention it specifically because last year in the Abbingtons, the church there did collect some Christmas presents for unaccompanied child asylum seekers, and that went down very well. They've done it again this year, but I understand that the church in Sawston has also been involved and is contributing towards that. So I thought you ought to know that.
I think they've been doing a shoebox one.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that. Issues of comment.
One time here. There's a general deal that the standard of the highway signposting on major roads is rapidly declining, the poor maintenance of them, to the degree that half of them are actually hanging off now. Has the highways actually done a survey of the district or the county to check what signs need to be found? Because some of them are actually hanging and swinging in the wind. It may be a good idea to get the highways out to check.
Yeah, there are some that are clearly being damaged or vandalised, and don't forget that sometimes they're a source of many of them in the past have been made of metal and so could get stolen or damaged. I'm not aware of any significant survey that's been done, but certainly I'll take a look at it.
As a means of getting around and knowing where you are and where you're going, especially when it comes to a roundabout, and you're coming to approach a roundabout and half the sign's missing, it's not particularly helpful.
There's also an issue of bleaching on the age as well. So
would it not be more helpful to report to the county council the signs that there are problems with, rather than requesting them to come and do a survey? Couldn't we just highlight for them, if you spotted ones that there's something wrong with, wouldn't it cut the chase to actually report the ones that there are problems with directly?
I can do that, I don't have a problem with that, but the issue is they still need to go out and check the signs.
And also remember that some of the highways agency are not on county, so
it's just a general question.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to report anything specifically, Councillor Maguire is the chair of the Highways and Community Infrastructure Committee, and so he would be the person to contact about a specific issue.
Right, so councillors' issues and agenda items to the next meeting. I'll go around starting with...
Well, I haven't got too much to say actually.
Now I'm all right at the moment.
Roger, Brian.
Yeah, the only other thing that Mike mentioned earlier, but didn't, we met at Seaacre.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
And I don't know if anybody. So this is the Cambridge Association of
Councils.
Anyway, it's Parish Council from the region coming together. And we were there. And it was quite interesting.
It was, yes.
And most notably, it was interesting because all the county councillors, you may want to cover your ears, was suggesting that they weren't trying to be nice to us because they were pushing responsibility and budgets down to us. And the general response from the people there was, "Oh yes, you are." But otherwise, there were some interesting things coming out of that, and we haven't reported back.
No, we haven't.
Would that be useful?
Yes.
We could at least. Did you get the thing that had the link with the report today or yesterday?
Possibly.
Should we compare notes and at least forward that out to everybody as well?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Kieran.
Nothing from me, thank you.
Yeah, walking today where Woodgens and the dry cleaners are, there's a manhole cover right in the path. The cement fillets down on the side are all broken off. You can put your twist.
Yeah, that's right, I'm on it.
I know you probably reported it, but it really is bad. So there's a water ball.
You have to,
Oh yeah, you have to
it's
report
water
it to the water board.
On that manhole cover.
Yeah, it's the water board, so you have to report it to the water board.
Can you report it then, please?
I've done it.
Right, Colin.
What's that? I'm on it.
Robert, what about saying that you do a report for Sawston Parish?
Yes.
Oh, okay, just wanted to
One
so the speed watch will be in there.
Yeah, no, I've got
We'd like to get sort of some feedback, if possible, via perhaps the Sawston scene as to is that something?
We've had requests in the past not to muddle up Sawston Sea business.
County
Council business. I'm sure that Sawston Sea would be very happy to print an article and raise support and publicise what we're doing and get local support.
Yeah, public education, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And,
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure you'll have, there are lots of people affected by the situation in the High Street who will want to know that the Blackpool are initiating it.
I'm sure with permission to the editors, so you could write an article, I'm sure you could send an article. Yes, okay. Right, Tony.
That's it. Yeah. I just wondered if anyone read what I wrote about the parish council, and if anyone's got any problems with it. I mean, anyone wanted to tell me how wonderful it was.
I'm a councillor.
Oh, yeah, no,
I didn't read it.
That's what I expected.
I will comment.
When I read it, I'm sure it's on. I don't know who's going to get name dropped in the next.
Right,
Yeah, no, that's realistic.
Right, Janet.
No.
And Alison.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the main things is some of us mainly want to be interested and supportive, but it's coming around for the nomination for the Community Heroes again. If anyone does know of anyone that they'd like to put forward or suggest, it's all in the magazine. It's all out there, so it would be good if we can promote that, because a lot of people do a lot of work unrecognised, and it'd be good to
We have
promote.
tried in the past, but the paperwork is tortuous, and then the events over in Canborne.
So it's torturous for somebody who's given up 30 years of their life to help other people.
We ought to talk again about doing a local one.
Yeah.
Something would be, yeah.
Right. Okay. Right. So we now need to go into closed session, and so I need to. Yes, I need to take a vote to go into closed session. So do I have a second? Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you.
Good night, Harry.
And this for members of the public who